Let me tell you a story, and I promise if you've ever tangled with an HOA or even just nosy neighbors, this one will hit you right in the gut. There's a reason folks say hell hath no fury like a homeowner scorned, and by the end you'll see why. But first picture this, a quiet patch of land. Early morning sun, slicing through the mist, me standing in boots so muddy my grandfather would have laughed. That was the day I finally set foot on the property he left me heart-pounding, head full of blueprints and wild ideas. And buddy, I had no clue I was about to step straight into a war. You ever feel like you're finally free? That's how I felt. 15 acres, rolling hills, a crooked old gate didn't matter, it was mine. After years trapped in city apartments where you hear your neighbor's toilet flush and their dog yapping at 2 a.m., this was paradise. Sure, the driveway could snap your axle if you took it too fast and the weeds were winning, but it was my mess. That first morning, I had the construction crew lined up, coffee steaming on my tailgate and the sun hitting just right. For about 3 hours, I lived in that dream. Then up the drive comes Trouble in a white blazer and $90 sneakers. She looked like she was heading to a board meeting, not a dusty patch of rural Virginia. She carried this leather folder like it was a badge, and that smile sharp enough to cut barbed wire. "You must be Mr. Miller," she said, barely hiding the distaste. "I'm Karen Stafford, president of the Oakfield Estates Homeowners Association. If you've ever met a Karen, you know that tone, all sugar on top, but with a center hard as nails. Nice to meet you, Karen, but I'm not part of your HOA. I said it calm, polite, didn't want to start a fight. It's a separate parcel. I've got the county permits. I'm building on private land." She laughed. Actually laughed and pulled out papers like she was serving me a summons. "It's customary to coordinate with the HOA, even if you're adjacent. For cohesion, you know, materials, finishes, roof lines." I cut her off as gentle as I could, but she wasn't here to listen. She kept pushing thin smile pens, scratching on her clipboard until I finally said, "Look, if you have a problem, take it up with the county." She left, but not before warning, "Don't be surprised if the community voices its objections." And something about the way she said it made the hair stand up on my neck. Turns out she wasn't bluffing. The next morning, the sheriff rolled up. Said he had a complaint, illegal construction, safety hazards, noise. Karen Stafford called it in, he said, barely glancing at the mess of sawdust and rebar. I handed him my paperwork, every last permit in order. He thumbed through, then shrugged. "You're good," he said. "Frankly, we get these calls from her a lot." Thought that'd be the end of it, right? Think again. Next day, another deputy, another complaint, then another. Debris on the road. Unsafe storage. Unauthorized workers. Every time I showed the permits. Every time the cops apologized and left. By Friday, my crew was on edge, guys with 30 years in construction muttering about harassment. We started joking that I was the outlaw architect, but honestly, it stopped being funny when Karen started showing up herself, snapping pictures, arms crossed, scribbling notes like some discount detective. It only escalated from there. Letters from the county, anonymous complaints about burning waste, toxic spills, whatever Karen could dream up. All baseless. All a headache. Neighbors who used to wave now kept their distance like my land was radioactive. One morning, Susan from 3 houses down handed me a flyer, "Stop the eyesore," in bold red letters. Grainy photo of my half-built house, bullet points about property values and safety hazards. Karen's handing them out at meetings, she whispered. And then the spectacle. Karen, clipboard in hand, marching up with a full entourage from the HOA board, taking compliance survey notes from outside my fence. I called out, "You're trespassing." She just smirked. I'll never forget my foreman shaking his head, muttering death by 1,000 paper cuts. And he was right, it felt less like neighborhood concern, more like a siege. You'd think it couldn't get more absurd, but on Tuesday the concrete truck showed up and couldn't get in. Karen had blocked the drive with her SUV. "I'm exercising my authority to prevent unauthorized commercial traffic on community roads," she declared, arms folded, smug as hell. Never mind that it was a county road, and she was the one trespassing. I called the sheriff, who arrived, sighed, and told her to move or be towed. She backed off, but not before glaring at me like I'd set her house on fire. That night I found my authorized personnel only signs ripped down, replaced with homemade danger illegal building site placards. Red zip ties flapping in the wind. The deputy told me, "Get cameras." So I did. Installed them everywhere, every angle, night vision cloud backup. Karen and her crew didn't care. Next day, more inspections, more photos, more threats of community action. I was exhausted, but I wasn't about to roll over. But here's where the twist comes in. One night, the cameras picked up a flatbed truck idling at the gate, 3 guys with bolt cutters and a bulldozer chained to the back. I dialed 911, flew down the driveway, headlights off, flipped the floodlights on from my phone and lit up the site like a football field. They froze. "You're trespassing," I shouted over the PA I'd installed after Karen's last stunt. "Police are on their way." One of them bolted, but another dropped an envelope inside. Was a contract from a local contractor signed, authorized by Karen Stafford. The deputies arrived, arrested the men, and shook their heads. "Looks like she crossed the line this time," one said. The next morning, my lawyer called. "You've got her," he said. "That contract's a smoking gun." By noon, Karen was arrested, hauled out of her house in a bathrobe, still protesting, threatening lawsuits. But it was all over. Fraud, conspiracy, trespass. The list of charges read like a soap opera. Turns out she'd been trying to get my land annexed into the HOA for months, faking maps, doctoring signatures, filing applications under my grandfather's name, all to steal the property outright if she could force it unsafe. All that effort to keep a community standard. The trial was something else. Deputies testified to the baseless calls. Contractors explained how she lied about the property's status. County officials pointed out forged documents. The security footage sealed the deal, Karen clipboard in hand, telling her so-called security team will remove him with or without his consent. When I took the stand, her lawyer tried to paint me as an antagonist. I just said I followed the law. She didn't. Even the judge had to stifle a laugh when I called out Karen's fantasy that she ran the entire county. The verdict came down hard. Guilty on every count. 18 months in jail, $75,000 in fines, and a permanent ban from any HOA board. The judge looked Karen straight in the eye. Your position in a neighborhood association does not grant you dominion over private citizens. The law is not a tool for personal vendettas. For the first time, Karen looked rattled. The aftermath, I finally got to build my house. 6 months later, the neighbors were back, this time with casseroles and awkward apologies. We laughed about it under the porch lights. Even Susan brought a plant, said, "Thank you for standing up to her." I told her I didn't want to be a hero. I just wanted to build a home. You know, I used to think stories like this were just for the tabloids, HOA horror tales you'd read for a laugh. But living through it, you see the truth power, when unchecked, always finds a way to overreach. And sometimes justice is slow, but it comes. In the end, the land was mine again. The housewarming was real, not just a dream. No more banners, no more phony patrols, just peace. So here's the real lesson. Sometimes you've got to stand up, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's too tired or too scared to fight back. That's the only way things change. Now let me ask you, have you ever tangled with an HOA or a neighbor like Karen? Was justice done, or did the system let you down? Drop your story below. Let's hear it, because in the end, these battles are more common than you think. And hey, who knows? Your story might just help the next guy facing a clipboard-wielding tyrant with a taste for power.